somewhere along the way, we kind of got into this idea that we can give our children self-esteem by praising them, by telling them they're doing a great job, and saying that we're proud of them and all of these things. But the thing is, when we say you're doing a good job, I'm proud of you, all of those things, really at a grassroots level, it is still our judgment of our child. So it is our opinion. And the thing is, with that, it sets up a situation that that our opinions, they need approval to feel that self-esteem. So what we want for our children is to develop that intrinsic self-esteem. So one of the activities in Mission Connect is this one. Now, if you've got my free sample pack, you can see it. So basically, it's just a simple little beanstalk, and there's some writing here. But what I wanted to let you know is like the activities don't need to be difficult. And it's really not about the sheet as much as it is about the conversation that happens during the activity. So how this activity works is we have the question, what are you good at? So that's what we're asking our child. That's what the child is going to ask themselves. What are they good at? And then I reframe it to, what can you do now that you couldn't do when you were smaller? So then that makes it really clear. And so if our child, because sometimes we say, what are you good at? And particularly if our child has low self-esteem, they'll often say nothing or things like that. So by reframing into, well, what could you do now that you couldn't do before, then that really helps them to think. And then, so while our older children could probably just go ahead and do this, how we would do this with a younger child is we would ask the question. And if our child can't think of anything, then that's our job then as a parent to maybe help them out with some ideas. Things like, well, you can do your buttons up now. You never used to be able to do that. Maybe you could reach somewhere that you never used to be able to. Maybe you can ride your scooter and you couldn't do that before. And, really, even if you give a couple of suggestions, then that will often be enough for your child to think, oh, yeah, I can do that and I can do that. And when they can get in their head, wow, I can do this now and I couldn't do that before, that's growth. And that's capability. And that's self-esteem. Okay, so when our children feel capable, that is when they have self-esteem. So we can't give that to them because it needs to come from within. It's self-esteem. It's a feeling that is inside. And I know if I have poor self-esteem, for example, it doesn't matter how many times people can tell me good things about myself or compliment me. If I don't believe it, then it doesn't change. So while we can't give our children self-esteem, we can ask the right questions to encourage self-esteem from within. So that's what this little activity is about. And that's what a lot of the activities that I do in Mission Connect are about. It's about asking the right questions so that we can build that self-esteem in that way, so that we can channel that growth and that development within our child. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's not about having to draw pictures or write words. So for example, the activity in this one is to fill these leaves. So we can do that by drawing a picture. We can do that by writing. We could not do it at all. We could just have a conversation based on this sheet. So that is the resource. The trick's the wrong word. The beauty in this activity is the conversation that you can have with your child. That's the connection. That's the growth. That's what we want. And, if you want to make it more creative, so if we're looking at different levels, so a school-age child might be able to write some words in here, do up buttons, reach something high, ride a scooter, read a book by themselves, know a times table, whatever, and fill them out. So they might be able to just write them in or draw a picture. and color if they want or not. Younger children, well, we could have a conversation and then you could either write it in there, or you could say, okay, so this leaf is you being able to do up your buttons. Do you want to color that leaf in? What color do you want that leaf to be? Purple? Awesome, that's a great color. Why don't you color that leaf now? And yeah, that way it's just not interrogation. There's something in there. And it's like, well, what's another thing that you're good at? Let's see if we can fill all these leaves. So you can see it just facilitates conversation. It's not necessarily about filling this in and making a pretty picture. Of course it can be. And of course, if you do that and they can put it up on their wall, kids that are creative, kids that are into arty kind of stuff, they might love doing all this in its glory. But kids that aren't, then for them, sorry, my kitten's climbing the screen. For them, you know, it's just about the conversation. So that's how we can have a broad age group that this activity and all of the ones like it will work. So does that make sense? So I don't know. I'm just going to check the comments. I don't think I've got any more comments on there. So does that make sense? If everyone in the comment, I'm just going to jump on to the other pages and see. But does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that and how that works? I'm just going to jump on there. No, that's okay. And that's what all of the activities in Mission Connect are about. They're basically, it's a simple little sheet, but really it's about facilitating conversation and facilitating communication with your child. And I have all sorts of ones. So things like, you know, this is, I guess, self-esteem based. We have things like gratitude, because, you know, if we think about gratitude, unless we encourage our child to think about things that they are grateful for, that is not going to be a natural thing for them to be, especially for our children, because they are by design, they're very self-motivated. Like that's, you know, to generate all the outward thinking and outward perspective, that's something that comes as their brain develops. So, you know, they're really in the now and they're in their own thoughts and they're in their own perspective. So, you know, it's not till later that they really start really expanding that part of their brain to really understand that. So things like gratitude is not something that will come naturally a lot of the time to a lot of our children. In fact, it's more the case that our children are more likely to be focused on what they don't have than what they do. And in fact, a lot of us adults, we are often focused on what we don't have rather than what we do, which is why gratitude is so important. But, you know, we need to actively include it into our, you know, mindset. So, you know, we often will do an activity on gratitude just so we can have, again, that conversation. And there's no right or wrong. It's not about getting it right or having it pretty or even making it sense, which is why it can be really interesting to ask these questions to our children, because it can be amazing the response that you get. Now, if you saw the video of the positive affirmation coloring, so again, that activity, that wasn't about making a beautiful picture. While Coco that did it with me made a beautiful picture, but what that whole activity was about the conversation. It was about us chatting while she was coloring and talking, her thinking about the positive statements and us talking about it. So for example, like one of the statements was, I am safe. So we can ask our child, I am safe. What does that mean to you? What makes you feel safe? What, you know, what is that answer? And it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong answer. It might be that they feel safe when you look under their bed and make sure there's no monsters. Or it could be that when they have a hug, or when you smile at them, or when they're safe in bed in their home. Whatever the answer is, Isn't that a nice conversation to have with your child? Isn't it nice to talk about feeling safe and the good feelings that that is? And that's what we want to do. We want to have these sorts of conversations with our kids because it's so easy to get caught in the don't do this, don't do that, time to clean your teeth, get up, get dressed. Oh, what have you done? That's broken. Stop hitting your brother. And then as they get older, even more, well, you've got to do your homework. Oh, your teacher rang me about this. And you see, so many of the conversations that we have with our children can end up being about correction, and it can be about what needs to be happening and what should be happening and what shouldn't be happening. And then buzzed in there with a little bit of what event talk, what happened today, what we're doing, planning. But, that's not connection. Connection is talking about thoughts and feelings and worries and joy and things that make you feel happy, things that make you feel scared, things that make you laugh. And because when you open up that sort of dialogue, then often your conversation from your child, rather than just how was your day, it's good, was like, well, then maybe that conversation will go a little bit deeper because the connection's there, the bond's there, the discussion about feeling the language is there. So, that's why connection is so important. And that's why I created Mission Connect, because I want to be able to give you the tools to be able to weave this stuff into your life so that you're not always correcting, directing, and moving your child around and feeling that disconnect. So when you're always telling your child off, or when you're just always in a rush, or things go silly but you're looking at your watch because it's time for bedtime. All of these happen. All of these things are normal. All of these things are parent life. And this is my life too. But that's why if we can counterbalance by having these little tools, having these little activities. We do a family activity in Mission Connect, and it's a simple little game that we play for the month. And it's like, one of them, for example, is just like pick a hand. So you hold your hands out and you surprise. And in that surprise is a surprise. It's a hug. It's a kiss. It's a tickle. It's, it's a whizzy. So that doesn't take long. That's a few seconds. But it's about having it in your head to get those little moments, to grab those little moments, to capture those little moments, to counterbalance all the directing and correcting and scheduling and all the things that have to be done. Because that's what we want to do. We still want to, and because when the life becomes all of those things and then we're overwhelmed ourselves, that's when we start to get the disconnect. And when we get disconnect and that grows, then what happens in teenage years when our children naturally disconnect a bit more? So what I want to do, and why I'm passionate about this, is I want that rock solid foundation now in the teenage years, now in the, before the teenage years, in the primary years, so that we have that good foundation, so we have that strong feeling of connection, so that we have that problem solving together, so that our kids know when they stuff up that they can come to us and they can talk to us and they can tell us, because when they're older, their stuff ups are going to be epic and they're going to be life-changing sometimes. So we need to have a system in place. We need to have connection with our children so that we are together, so that we can weather the teenage years. So that's why it's so important, because I see so many times, especially on the pages that I'm in, that's my little cat, that children are 10, 11, 12, and the relationship has gone so far that then hormones and all of those sorts of things are coming in, And it's like, well, what do we do? And it's not too late, but it's so much harder. But if we can put these systems in place when our children are young, when they still are by nature and design connected and care what we think and want to please us, if we can get a good framework in place, then I'm going to move my pussycat. Then that's when we can get together. I'm just going to have a look at a little message. So that's why we want to really do this. I've got a message from, hey Elsie, thank you. So that's why I'm really passionate. I'm really passionate about getting this window from when our kids are 4 to 12 and really setting that foundation up, because it needs to be there. So that's what I'm about. That's what Mission Connect is about. And that's why these little activities, it's not about the sheet. It's about the conversation. And these help you have the conversations so that you can do that. And we even have conversation starters as well. That's one of the deliverables. I have so many deliverables in Mission Connect for that reason. But I'm trying to keep it simple as well. I must admit, when I first opened, I was a little bit of an eager beaver, and it was a bit heavy. I did give too much. So I really wound about to keep it like a really achievable thing now. So, you get the sheets, you get the family activity, which I said, like, pick a hand. That's one of our family activities. Training library or self-paced. We have a call where we jump on, and I jump on live on Zoom, and we go through a positive parenting activity, and then I open it up for specific problem solving. So that's a way we can look at challenges, and we can workshop it and see what we can do about it. So that happens monthly, and of course the pack, I go through that on Facebook Live, and so that you know exactly what to do. So I'll talk about how we can ask these questions and things like that. So I'm there to make it easy. That's my goal, is to make it easy. My goal is to allow you to be able to weave connection into your everyday life with your children. That is my goal. That is my mission statement. That is what Mission Connect is about. So, I don't want it to be hard and heavy, but I find if we don't think about it, if it's not in our mind to do this, then it's so easy to stop. And I know for myself, I forget, and I do this, and I still find myself forgetting, because I get busy in all the busyness of life, and I get overwhelmed in all the challenges of parenting that I forget. But that's why I've got the reminder too. Like, I love coming into the group, and I love getting, doing the activities with my kids, and so doing it there for you. So I'll